One of your colleagues told us that if this should spiral into a pandemic, this flu could make COVID look like a walk in the park.
I agree.
You're scaring me.
I'm scared about it myself. I don't sleep very much these days, Bill.
Bird flu is now spreading through U.S. cattle for the first time, and experts warn that it could spark a future pandemic. Right now, the virus does not spread person to person, but doctors warn that could change. Bird flu was first detected in cattle early last year and now continues to rip through dairy herds and poultry flocks.
Going in depth tonight, we've all felt it at the store when we buy our eggs. The bird flu outbreak happening now is one of the largest animal disease outbreaks ever.
Fox Carolina's Christina Feliciano spoke with an expert from Clemson University about the bird flu and how long it could stick around.
Never once did I think I was going to have to deal with avian influenza, even the mild form, let alone high-path avian influenza.
For the past 3 years, the U.S. has been dealing with one of its largest animal health disease outbreaks that it's ever recorded.
Health news this noon, a group of virologists around the world are sounding the alarm on bird flu. The Global Virus Network says H5N1, which has spread to millions of birds and at least 70 humans, requires proactive surveillance. This comes at a time when the Trump administration has fired dozens of experts who track disease outbreaks in the U.S. The U.S. saw its first human bird flu death earlier this year.
Skyrocketing egg prices, tens of millions of chickens dead, both linked to the avian flu that's sweeping across the country tonight. The strain has infected at least 70 people, too, including one who died earlier this year.
You know, there's work underway right now in Memphis to decode this latest flu strain and hopefully help stop the spread.
So far, there haven't been any reports of human-to-human transmission, and infections are typically mild. That being said, avian flu isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Health experts are concerned it could get worse. That's why research is being done right here in Memphis, hoping to get ahead of the virus.
We can't predict flu. We've been studying it for a very long time, and what we learn is that it outsmarts us every time.
On average, the flu kills more than 36,000 people across the U.S. each year, according to the CDC, especially the elderly and children. That's why inside these walls of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in downtown Memphis, researchers are studying more than childhood cancer, but also the emergence of influenza strains worldwide.
Why it's important at St. Jude? Because it is a catastrophic childhood illness.
Dr. Stacy Schultz-Cherry is the principal investigator of the hospital's Schultz-Cherry lab team, studying how the virus jumps from animals to humans and how to treat it.
This is where we do all of our cells, so we isolate cells from a lot of different spots.
H5N1, the type of avian flu circulating right now, was first identified in 1996 in geese in China. In 2020, a variant of that original strain was found in wild birds in Europe, and in late 2021, it was found in the US and Canada. The virus is nearly 100% fatal in chickens. More than 160 million birds have died or been culled since 2022, and the avian flu has spread to cattle herds as well.
But what it's doing is gaining some changes that's allowing it to actually infect more mammals, and that's what makes us really nervous.
As the avian flu spreads across the country, a main concern is the virus mutating, causing human-to-human transmission that so far has not been detected. The CDC has reported 70 human cases of avian flu. Most have been detected in dairy and poultry workers, but in January, a patient died of the virus after being exposed to a backyard flock.
For potential, avian flu is always the one that people in infectious disease have feared.
Dr. Steve Threlkeld is an infectious disease specialist at Baptist Memorial Hospital in Memphis. He says the longer the outbreak continues, the more likely human-to-human transmission becomes.
The concern is that as it spins off and spits, if you will, into other animals and into humans, it can make small genetic changes. It doesn't take that much in the way of genetic change to allow it to be more efficient at infecting people.
Fortunately, Dr. Threlkeld says most recent human cases in the U.S. have been mild, but historically, the death rate for bird flu in humans is high around the world. About half of all people with known infections have died.
Imagine a disease as contagious as COVID was with a 15-20% mortality rate. It would close down the globe. It would be nothing like even the horror that we saw with that.
The threat is why the researchers at St. Jude stay vigilant, monitoring changes in the avian flu and working to find treatments.
We want to watch this and make sure that if it does infect humans, that it still can't transmit. That's that final step to potentially becoming something that could be a pandemic.
So with all of this going on, how concerned do humans need to be right now about avian flu?
People ask, well, is this going to become something that will infect and transmit in humans? And we don't know, but that's exactly what we're watching and planning for. If it does, how do we protect our population?
And common symptoms of this strain of avian flu in humans are similar to the seasonal flu. They include fever, cough, sore throat, runny nose, muscle aches, headache, fatigue, and eye redness and irritation.
The U.S. did have its first high-path AI big outbreak in 2014, 2015. I think we only lost maybe about 50 million birds. That lasted for about 6 months. We thought that was the biggest outbreak we ever had. So this, as they say, is unprecedented.
Since the recent bird flu outbreak, we've seen commercial and backyard flocks infected, causing millions of birds to die and our egg prices to go up.
Prices kept increasing. To the beginning of March, we got as far up as $1.47 an egg. But we've recently seen prices go back down, and now, beginning of April, we're at 68 cents an egg.
That was Robert Hodges, the owner of Sunflower Breakfast, Lunch, and Bakery. Before the outbreaks, he paid around 29 cents per egg. Throughout all of the market changes, Hodges has kept his promise.
There was definitely a moment where I was like, yeah, maybe it might be time to increase the prices, but yeah, we just, with how we run our business, we wanted to try to hold off on that as long as possible.
It's a sacrifice Hodges is willing to make for as long as he can. The outbreak is a concern for business in the Palmetto State. Clemson University says agribusiness has a $51.8 billion annual impact on South Carolina's economy, and according to the South Carolina Poultry Federation, the poultry industry represents 40% of all agriculture in the state and 80% of animal agriculture. Thankfully, experts say no commercial poultry farms in South Carolina have been infected with the bird flu. However, we are still feeling those impacts at the grocery stores. Dr. Julie Helm, a poultry veterinarian with Clemson University, says since January of this year, the U.S. has lost 10% of its inventory of commercial egg-laying hens, which continues to impact egg prices.
Of course, the prices for the consumers for the eggs, because we get our eggs, of course, from other states and other companies. I guess for the commercial, some impact is they're putting a lot of time, money, and effort in all these different biosecurity practices, trying to make sure that virus stays out of their birds.
Practices that Dr. Helm says are essential to keeping commercial and backyard flocks healthy. Something else that could help? A vaccine. Dr. Helm says we could hear about vaccines in the future, but right now the U.S. Department of Agriculture is deciding whether or not to allow commercial poultry flocks to be vaccinated.